She came from the stars, hungry and alone. The night was cold. The wind moved through the broken buildings of an old human colony. Dust covered the ground, and the sky was full of dark clouds. Then something came from the sky. A small escape pod, burning and broken, crashed into the ground with a loud bang. Smoke and fire rose from it. No one was near to see it fall. After a few minutes, the door of the pod opened with a hiss. A girl stepped out. She was not human. Her skin was pale blue. Her hair was silver and long. Her eyes were big, glowing faintly purple. She wore strange clothes, torn and dirty, not from Earth. She looked weak, shaking, and afraid. Her name was Jari. Jari looked around. She had never seen Earth before. She didn't know where she was. Her ship had been shot by a patrol from the Empire, and she had escaped alone. She had no food, no water, no tools, only her clothes, and a small device on her wrist. It was not working now, probably broken in the crash. Jari took a slow breath and began to walk. Her feet hurt. Her head was dizzy. She had not eaten in 2 days. She walked for miles through the dead colony. The buildings were empty. Some had burned long ago. She saw strange machines, human cars but old and rusted. She came to a place where she saw light, a small market. Some humans were there, selling things, food, clothes, parts. They looked poor, but alive. Jari stepped closer, hoping they could help her. She touched her stomach. It growled. She needed food or she would die. The people turned to look at her. They stared. Some were scared. Others laughed. "Alien girl," someone whispered. "She's half naked," said another. "Crazy thing. Go back to space." Jari raised her hands to show she had no weapons. She pointed to her mouth. "Hungry," she said in broken English. A man threw a piece of rotten fruit at her. "No free food here. Get lost." Jari slowly took off a piece of her clothing, a glowing scarf made from special alien fiber. It was the last gift from her sister. She held it out to a woman selling bread. The woman stared at it, then snatched it from her hand. Jari waited. She opened her mouth to ask for food, but the woman laughed and walked away. She gave nothing in return. Jari stood there, shaking. Her hands closed into fists. Her body felt weaker now. Her legs couldn't move. Her vision blurred. She fell, right there in the dust, in front of everyone. No one came to help her. She closed her eyes. Maybe this was the end. But then, she heard footsteps. A heavy boot stopped beside her head. She opened one eye slowly. A man stood there, human, tall, with a worn jacket and a gun at his side. His face was rough. His eyes were cold, but not cruel. He looked down at her. Everyone else backed away. People whispered, "That's Jack, ex-soldier. Don't mess with him." Jack kneeled beside Jari. She tried to move, but her arms didn't work. He reached into his coat and pulled out a small piece of bread. He held it out. Jari stared at it. "Eat," Jack said. His voice was deep and calm. "You're safe now." Jari took the bread with shaking hands. She ate slowly, carefully, like a scared animal. She was too hungry to care about pride. Jack watched her, saying nothing. When she finished, he looked around at the silent crowd. "She's not a threat," he said. "She's just lost." Someone shouted, "Why help her?" "She's not one of us." Jack stood up. "She's alone, just like we all were once," he said. "Leave her be." He looked down at Jari again. "Can you walk?" he asked. Jari nodded slowly. "Come with me," he said. She didn't understand every word, but she trusted his voice. She took his hand. Together they walked away from the market. People watched, but no one stopped them. Far away in the sky above, a small drone turned and flew silently in the clouds. It had found her signal, and it was sending a message back to the Empire. Jari had never seen a place like this before. It was dark, quiet, and hidden deep under the ruins of the colony. Jack led her through a broken tunnel, using only a small flashlight. Every step echoed against the walls. The air smelled of metal and dust. They finally stopped in a small room filled with old furniture, metal boxes, and a cracked window covered with cloth. Jack placed his bag on the floor and turned to her. "You can rest here," he said. Jari stood still, watching him. She didn't know if she could trust him. No one had ever helped her before. not without wanting something back. But this human had not hurt her. He didn't laugh at her, didn't push her away, didn't look at her like she was a monster. He had given her food. He had offered his hand. And now he had brought her to shelter. Jack moved around the room, picking up an old blanket and placing it on the floor. "It's not much," he said, "but it's warm." Jari sat slowly, keeping her eyes on him. She didn't speak, not because she didn't want to, but because the words were hard. Her voice still shook when she tried to speak human language. Jack noticed her struggle. He sat a few feet away and opened a can of food. He took a bite, then handed it to her. She took it carefully, like it might disappear. "What's your name?" he asked. Jari looked at him. She pointed to herself. Jari, she said softly. Jack nodded. "I'm Jack." For a moment, they just sat there in silence. The world outside was broken, but here in this quiet room, it felt like time had paused. After a while, Jack pointed to the strange device on her wrist. "What's that?" he asked. Jari looked down. The device had a soft blue light blinking now, just once every few seconds. It was slowly powering up. She didn't answer. She didn't know if she should. That device was the only thing left from her people. It had been built by the scientists of her planet, designed to carry knowledge, maps, and one dangerous secret. A secret the Empire would kill to find. Jack didn't push her. He just leaned back against the wall and stared at the ceiling. "You're not the first alien I've seen," he said, "but you're the first one I didn't shoot." Jari's eyes widened slightly. Jack smiled. "I used to be a soldier, fought in the outer wars. We were told aliens were enemies. All of them. No questions." His voice became softer. "But I saw things they never told us. We were the monsters sometimes. Not them." Jari listened closely. She didn't understand every word, but she understood his feeling. Pain, regret. He had killed and now he was alone. Just like her. She looked at him, then slowly pointed at her wrist device. "Map," she said. "Home." Jack raised an eyebrow. "That thing's a map?" She nodded. "But home is gone." "No, more." Her voice cracked. Jack leaned forward. "The Empire?" She nodded again. A tear rolled down her cheek. Jack looked at the device, then at her. "Why are they chasing you?" Jari wiped her face. She held the device tightly. "Key," she whispered. "I stole key." Jack sat up. "Key to what?" Jari hesitated. Then she whispered. "Control. Big system. Slaves. Ships. All." Jack's face turned serious. "You mean the Empire's control system?" She nodded slowly. Jack stood and started pacing. "That means they're tracking you. That device, they can find it." Jari shook her head. "Broken. Signal weak. Maybe safe." Jack didn't look convinced. He went to the door and checked outside. Nothing yet. Still, they had to move soon. "We'll need to shut it off, or move again," he said. "Too risky." Jari's eyes followed him as he walked. Her hands touched the floor. It was rough and cold, but not as cold as space. Not as cold as fear. She had been alone in space, hunted, hungry, and afraid. But now here there was something else. Something warm. This human didn't treat her like a tool. He didn't run. He stayed. Later that night, while Jack slept sitting in the corner, Jari looked at the ceiling. She touched the device again. The blue light blinked. She remembered the day she took it from the lab, running as her world burned. She remembered her sister's face, the last time she saw her. "Run, Jari," she had said. "You're the last one now." Jari closed her eyes. Then suddenly she felt something, a sharp sound, a quiet click. She opened her eyes. The device beeped once, soft but clear. Jack opened his eyes too. "What was that?" Jari looked down. The screen on the device showed a small red mark blinking on a map. It was moving. She looked at Jack, her voice tight with fear. "Not safe, they found me." The red dot blinked on the wrist device like a warning heartbeat, steady and cold. Jari stared at it, frozen, her breath shallow. Jack stood behind her, his jaw tight, eyes fixed on the tiny screen. "They're coming," she said in a whisper. Jack nodded once and moved quickly, gathering his things. How long do we have? He asked. Jari tapped the screen. Not far. Drone. Maybe half hour. Jack cursed under his breath and checked his weapon. Then we move now. Jari followed him out of the shelter without a word, her bare feet silent on the metal floor. Outside, the world was quiet, but danger filled the air like smoke. The wind had picked up, dust flying across the ruins, turning the streets into a ghost city. They moved fast, ducking under fallen buildings and empty walls, trying to stay out of sight. Jari felt the device's weight on her wrist, heavier with each step. It was her only link to her people, but it was also a signal, a light in the dark for her hunters to follow. She wanted to rip it off, throw it away, but she couldn't. It was too important. It held the last secret of her destroyed world. Jack led her to an underground access tunnel. They dropped down a ladder into darkness, lit only by his flashlight. Old water tunnels, he said, abandoned after the war. Empire never cared about these. Jari followed closely, her fingers brushing the walls. They were wet and cold. Her mind raced. She didn't know how long she could keep running. Her body was still weak. Her memories hurt. And now she was dragging this human into danger with her. She looked at Jack. He didn't have to help her. He didn't even know her. Why did he stay? Why didn't he run like everyone else? As they walked, Jack suddenly stopped. He raised a hand, signaling silence. Jari listened. A sound echoed ahead. Metal scraping. Something moving. Jack crouched and pulled Jari down with him. The flashlight clicked off. They waited in the dark, holding their breath. Then a red light flickered in the distance. A drone. Empire model. Small, fast, deadly. It floated slowly through the tunnel, scanning. Jack whispered, "EMP?" Jari shook her head. "Too close. Will alert others." The drone passed above them, light scanning the walls. It stopped for a second, then moved on. Jack waited 10 more seconds before standing. "We need to split up soon," he said. Jari's eyes widened. "No. Stay." Jack looked at her. "If they catch me, maybe you escape." Jari shook her head. "Alone. Die." Jack sighed. "You're brave," he said softly, then gave a half smile. "Stubborn too." They kept moving until they reached an old access hatch. Jack pushed it open and climbed out. He checked the streets, then helped Jari up. They were in a new part of the colony now. More destroyed, more silent. Broken signs, old machines, ash in the wind. Jari coughed and leaned against a wall. "We can't keep running," she said. Jack nodded. "I know a place. One last spot. We can rest, plan." He led her to an old building with a broken roof and no doors. Inside was a hidden staircase that led to a basement. Jack used a code to unlock it. "Military safe house," he said. "From the old days." Jari stepped inside and sat on the floor. Her legs were shaking again. Jack handed her water and food. She drank slowly, trying to calm her heartbeat. The device beeped again. She looked. The signal was still moving, but slower now. "Drone lost us," she said. "For now." Jack leaned back. "We can't outrun them forever. We need to hit them first." Jari looked at him. "How?" He pointed at her wrist. "You said it's a key. What does it unlock?" She hesitated, then spoke slowly. "It connects to the slave system. Control grid. It can shut down everything. But needs signal boost. Strong tower." Jack nodded. "There's one left. Main relay tower. North side. Guarded but not impossible." Jari looked scared. "Too risky. You die." Jack smiled. "Maybe, but you don't." Jari looked at him for a long time. Her people were gone. Her home was gone. But this human, he didn't care about risk. He didn't care about species or language. He just cared about what was right. Later that night, as Jari sat alone in the corner, her thoughts went back to the last day on her planet. Her sister had handed her the device with shaking hands. "This is hope," she had said. "Run. Find someone who still believes in freedom." Jari hadn't understood then, but now sitting across from Jack, she finally did. Maybe that person was him, a soldier who had once been a killer, a human who didn't run. The wind howled outside as the red light on the device blinked one last time, then turned blue. Signal lost, for now. But the Empire was still watching, and they would come again. The wind outside screamed like a warning from the future. Inside the basement, Jari lay awake, staring at the ceiling, her fingers gently tracing the glowing edges of the wrist device. Her mind couldn't rest. The red light had stopped, but her heart told her it was not over. She could still feel them, somewhere out there, watching, listening, waiting to strike. Jack slept sitting against the wall, arms crossed, gun across his lap, like he'd done it 1,000 times. Even in sleep, his face looked ready to fight. Jari didn't understand humans completely, but she had never seen one like him. Strong, yes, but quiet. Dangerous, but kind. She didn't know what made him stay. She had nothing to offer. She was alone, weak, hunted, and yet when she was near him, the fear was smaller. The pain was softer. As the first light of morning crept through a crack in the ceiling, she stood up and walked to him. "We go today?" she asked. Jack opened his eyes slowly. He nodded. "We don't have much time." Jari sat beside him. "What if we fail?" she whispered. Jack looked at her. "Then we fail doing something that matters." His voice was calm. Jari nodded. She wasn't ready, but she would go. She had to. Her people were gone. Her planet was ash. She had nothing left except the mission. And Jack. They packed what little they had. Jack opened a steel case hidden in the floor, revealing a map, old but detailed. He pointed to a tall building far to the north of the colony. Relay tower. Still active. Empire uses it to control drones, scan areas, send commands. Jari leaned over the map. "We connect. I send code. Crash their system." Jack tapped the map again. "But it's guarded. Maybe 2, maybe 20. We don't know." Jari looked up. "Then we go quiet." Jack smiled faintly. "Now you sound like a soldier." They moved out before sunrise, keeping to the shadows. The colony was changing. Drones buzzed higher in the sky. Searchlights moved slowly over rooftops. Patrol tracks lined the roads. The Empire was tightening its grip. They knew Jari was still here, and they were closing in. Every step felt heavier. Every corner might be death. Jari's body ached. Her legs burned. But she didn't stop. She couldn't. Jack walked ahead, checking every path, his eyes sharp, his gun ready. He didn't talk much now, focused, silent. Jari followed closely, gripping the device tightly. They passed the broken statue of an old human hero. Its face cracked, words faded. War had left nothing but ghosts. As they neared the tower, Jack pointed to a small sewer entrance. "Back way in," he said. "We climb up near the core." Jari nodded. The tunnel was tight, wet, and cold. Rats scattered as they crawled through. When they reached the inside of the tower, it was quiet, too quiet. Jack stopped. "They know," he whispered. A second later, the sound of boots echoed from above. A patrol. 4 guards armored, armed. Jack pulled Jari behind a crate. "I'll distract," he said. "You climb, reach the panel, plug in." Jari shook her head. "Too dangerous." Jack looked at her. "We don't have time. If I don't go, they find both of us." Jari grabbed his arm. "I don't want to lose you." Jack paused. Then he gently pulled her hand away. "You won't. Just do your part. Finish what you started." He stood and moved into the light. Gun raised. A shout followed, then fire. Blasters lit the dark hallway. Jari ran the other way, up the narrow ladder toward the control room. Her hands slipped, heart racing. Below, she heard screams, metal hitting metal, voices shouting orders. Jack was fighting alone. She had to move faster. She reached the panel at the top, a large control board full of wires and screens. She placed her wrist against the scanner. The device blinked. Blue light spread across the screen. "Code accepted," a voice said. Jari tapped the keys, typing in the shutdown order. The system hesitated, then began to overload. Lights blinked red. Alarms rang. But then, the screen froze. "Authorization denied," it said. Her heart dropped. It needed a second key, her sister's key, but it was lost. She screamed in frustration. The door burst open. A soldier entered, helmet black, eyes red. He raised his weapon, but before he could shoot, A blast hit him from behind. He fell, dead. Jack stepped inside, bleeding from the shoulder, face pale. "You forgot one thing," he said. "I was a hacker before I was a soldier." He held up a small chip. "Let's finish this." He plugged it into the panel. The screen blinked. Authorization confirmed. A countdown began. The tower shook. Zari fell into Jack's arms. "We did it," she whispered. He smiled. "Not yet. Now we run." Smoke rose from the relay tower as Jack and Zari ran through the ruins. Hearts pounding, lungs burning. The explosion behind them had taken out the upper control panel, cutting one of the Empire's key systems, and they knew the response would be fast and brutal, but for now they were free, barely. They moved through back alleys and broken tunnels until they reached the meeting point, an old warehouse deep in the dead zone, far from the Empire's sensors. Jack knocked in a pattern on the steel door. A voice inside answered, and the door opened slowly. A man stepped out, tall, with scars across his face and a half-metal arm. "Name's Colin," he said. "Jack said you might come." He looked at Zari without much expression. "You the alien girl?" Zari nodded once, quiet and alert. Colin stepped aside. "Get in. We don't have much time." Inside the warehouse, 10 people sat around a table, maps and weapons spread out. Humans, some young, some old, but all tired, hard-faced, and ready for war. A resistance cell. Jack had fought beside some of them in the outer wars. He gave a quick summary. "She shut down a control tower. It won't stop the Empire, but it shook them." One of the women leaned forward. "That wrist device, is it real?" Shari pulled back her sleeve. The screen still glowed softly. Colin stared at it, then at her. "If that thing can kill their grid, why don't we use it now? Go big. Hit everything." Jack replied, "We need a stronger signal. One tower isn't enough, and the code must be complete. Right now it's still unstable." Another man slammed the table. "Then fix it. You bring her here, risk all of us, and now you say we wait?" Jack's hand moved to his weapon. "You'd rather we left her outside for the Empire to catch?" The man backed off, grumbling. Tension filled the air. Zari could feel it. She looked around the room and realized something terrible. These people were not united. They were angry, scared, and broken. They didn't trust each other, and they didn't trust her. That night, she sat alone in a corner, while the others argued about plans. Jack came over and sat beside her. "You okay?" he asked. She nodded, but her eyes were worried. "They don't want me here," she said softly. Jack didn't deny it. "Some think you're dangerous. Some think you're lying." Zari looked down. "You think I lie?" Jack shook his head. "I've seen the truth in your eyes. You've lost more than all of them combined." They sat in silence. Outside, the wind howled through the cracked walls. Later, when everyone slept, Zari heard a soft noise. Footsteps. She stood quietly and followed them. In the dark hallway, she saw one of the resistance men sneaking toward the back room, holding something in his hand. A communicator. He whispered into it. "They're here. The alien has the device. Coordinates sent. Reward?" Zari's heart stopped. A traitor. Her feet moved without thinking. She ran back to Jack and shook him awake. "Someone called them. Empire coming." Jack jumped up, grabbed his weapon, and shouted, "Everyone up! We've been sold out!" Confusion filled the room. Colin yelled, "Who?" Zari pointed. "Him!" The man with the communicator pulled out a blaster and fired, hitting another rebel in the leg. He tried to run, but Jack tackled him. The others helped hold him down. Colin hit him across the face. "You betrayed us for credits?" The man spat blood. "She's not worth dying for. She's not even human." Colin's eyes burned. He shot the man without another word. Minutes later, drones flew overhead. Empire forces began surrounding the building. "Too late," Jack said. "We move now or die here." Colin nodded. "Back tunnel leads to sewer line. Go now. We'll cover." Zari grabbed Jack's hand. "No, you come." He shook his head. "We all don't make it if we all run. Go. Keep the mission alive." She wanted to scream, wanted to fight him, but she knew he was right. She ran with two others through the back while gunfire started behind them. The sewers were wet and dark. Her hands shook as she climbed. Her mind kept thinking of Jack. If he would survive, if she would ever see him again. They reached the surface near a broken train yard. One of the rebels collapsed. The other, a young girl named Mira, pulled her up. "We keep moving," she said. Shari nodded, wiping her tears. The world was darker now. The Empire was closer. The mission was heavier. And one truth had become clear to her above all. Trust no one, not fully, not blindly, not anymore. The train yard was quiet, but it was the kind of quiet that felt dangerous. Broken train cars stood like metal skeletons in the gray morning fog. Zari and Mira moved carefully, staying low, each step fast and silent. The attack on the warehouse still echoed in Zari's mind. Gunfire, screams, Jack's voice yelling orders, and then nothing. She didn't know if he was alive. She didn't even know if Colin's people survived. But she couldn't stop. The device on her wrist pulsed softly. The final part of the mission was clear now. No more running, no more hiding. It was time to strike the core. Mira handed her a small data stick. "This came from Jack," she said. "He left it behind just before we escaped." Zari took it with shaking hands and plugged it into the wrist device. A new map appeared, marked with a single red point, deep in the heart of an orbiting Empire command base above Earth. "That's where they control the master system," Mira said. "Slavery networks, drone fleets, AI cores, it all runs from there." Zari stared at it. She knew this place. Her people called it the Spine, a hidden station built into a dead moon shell, invisible to most scanners. It was thought to be a myth, but now it was real. "It's impossible to reach," she whispered. Mira smiled. "Then let's do the impossible." They made contact with a small rebel pilot group hiding in the mountains. The ship was old, but it could fly. The pilot, a quiet man with a burned face, didn't ask questions. "You're the one with the key," he said. "I'll get you in. Just don't die in 5 minutes." Zari and Mira boarded the ship with only one goal: reach the base, plug the device into the mainframe, and shut everything down. One move, one chance. As the ship rose into orbit, Zari stared at Earth growing smaller behind them. Her home planet was gone, her family dead, her people erased. But she had this one chance to make it mean something. Mira sat beside her, loading her weapons. "You ready for this?" she asked. Zari nodded. "No choice now." They flew in low, hiding behind debris fields and inactive satellites. The Spine looked like a shadow against the stars, cold, black, and huge. As they neared, Empire ships swarmed around it like bees protecting a hive. "If we get any closer, they'll light us up," the pilot said. "You want to drop now?" Zari stood. "Yes." The cargo door opened, and the wind of space screamed around them. Wearing simple exosuits, Zari and Mira launched toward the Spine, using magnetic boots and a short-range glider. Enemy sensors blinked to life. The alarm was raised, but it was too late. They had landed. Inside the station, the lights were harsh and white. The walls were smooth metal. Drones floated past, scanning, searching. Guards in black armor moved in tight formations. Zari's heart raced, but her hands were steady. They moved through service tunnels, crawling, climbing, dodging every camera. Mira hacked a side door, and they slipped into the lower reactor wing. That's when they heard it, a voice cold and sharp. "You made it farther than I thought." Shari turned. A tall woman in dark armor stood behind them, helmet off, eyes glowing gold. "I am Commander Vel," she said, "and you have something that belongs to the Empire." Zari stepped forward. "You destroyed my world." Vel tilted her head. "Your world was weak. It needed to be corrected." Mira raised her blaster, but Vel moved faster than thought, knocking her back with a single strike. Zari charged. She had no training, but she had fire in her soul. The two clashed. Fists, claws, fire from the wrist device. Sparks flew. Zari was thrown to the ground, bruised, bleeding. Vel raised her weapon. "Any last words, alien?" she asked. Zari spat blood. "You forgot one thing." She tapped her wrist. The device blinked red. "I'm not alone." Behind them, the wall exploded. Jack stepped through, limping but alive, holding a heavy plasma rifle. "Miss me?" he said. He fired at Vel, forcing her to dodge and fall back. Mira crawled up and rejoined the fight. Together, they rushed to the mainframe room. sealing the door behind them. "You're alive," Zari gasped. Jack nodded. "Barely. Colin didn't make it. But he bought me time." Zari hugged him quickly, then turned to the core panel. She pressed her wrist to the reader. The light turned green. "Final code confirmed," the system said. "Shut down in 10, 9. Zari looked at Jack and Mira. They were hurt, bleeding, tired, but smiling. The Empire wouldn't control anyone again. The last fight had begun, and they were going to finish it. The countdown echoed through the walls like a ticking heart. 8, 7, 6. The core glowed brighter with every number, casting pale light on their faces. Zari stood at the panel, hand pressed against the device, eyes locked on the screen. Mira leaned against the wall, holding her side where blood soaked through her clothes, and Jack stood beside Zari, gun aimed at the sealed door, breathing heavy, ready to protect her until his last breath. 3, 2, 1, the voice said, and then the world shifted. The lights in the room flickered. Somewhere deep inside the spine, engines hummed and then stopped. Control circuits shorted. Command codes were erased. Every slave collar in the galaxy blinked red once, then shattered. Drone fleets powered down in midair. Battleships paused, confused. Factory AIs stuttered into silence. The system that had ruled entire planets, gone in seconds. Zari stumbled back from the terminal, her legs weak, heart racing. "We did it," she whispered as if she didn't believe it yet. Jack put a hand on her shoulder. "You did it," he said softly. Mira smiled, though she looked pale. "So, do we win now?" But before anyone could answer, the sealed door exploded. Metal flew across the room. Jack shielded Zari as smoke and sparks filled the air. Commander Vel stepped through the fire, face burned, one eye glowing red, armor cracked but still dangerous. "You think you've ended us?" she screamed. "You've only started a war!" She raised a blaster and fired. Jack dove, returning shots, but she was fast. Mira tried to crawl for cover, but a blast hit near her, throwing her back. Zari ran to her, dragging her behind a control block. Jack moved left, drawing fire, trying to give Zari a chance. She looked at the panel again. It was dead now, but the system had already shut down. There was nothing left to do, except survive. Vel moved closer, firing nonstop, rage in her every step. "I gave peace to this galaxy," she shouted. "I brought order. You bring chaos." Jack was hit in the leg. He fell, groaning, but still aimed and shot. One of his blasts struck Vel's chest. She staggered, then roared. "You die first, human," she said and ran toward him. Zari screamed and jumped between them. She didn't think. She just moved. Vel raised her arm, but the wrist device, still glowing faintly, caught the energy of her strike and reflected it. A shock wave burst from Zari's body, throwing Vel backward across the room, where she hit the wall and didn't move. Silence. Zari fell to her knees, breathing hard, hands shaking. Jack crawled to her side. "You okay?" he asked. She nodded barely. Mira groaned from her corner. "Still alive. Somehow." Jack looked at Vel's body, then at the broken room. "Is it really over?" he asked. Zari didn't answer right away. She looked at the empty panel, the ruined hallway, the stars beyond the window. "The system is down," she said, "but the Empire will try again. Someone always does." Jack nodded slowly. "Then we make sure they never rise again." He helped her up. "We start something better." For the next hour, they moved through the station, planting charges, unlocking data, sending signals to nearby rebel ships. Word was already spreading, slaves waking to freedom, captains losing control of their fleets, rebels rising up everywhere. They escaped the spine in a stolen pod just before the final charges exploded, lighting up the dead moon like a second sun. Back on Earth, weeks later, the sky looked different, calmer, freer. People came out of hiding. Colonies began to rebuild. The resistance turned into something new, not just fighters, but leaders, teachers, healers. Zari walked through the broken town she had once crawled into, half dead and alone. Now people waved to her. Children followed her with questions. Soldiers saluted her. She didn't understand all the words they said, but she understood their eyes. Respect, kindness, hope. Jack walked beside her with a limp, but he smiled more now. Mira had started training new rebels, building a network that didn't need war to survive. One night under the stars, Jari stood on a hill, looking at the dark sky. Jack joined her. "Thinking about home?" he asked. Jari nodded. "Sometimes I still see it. My sister, my city. The stars were brighter there." Jack looked up. "They'll be bright here too one day." Jari turned to him. "Thank you," she said. Jack raised an eyebrow. "For what?" She smiled softly. "For not running. For staying. For believing." Jack looked at her for a long moment. "You gave me something to believe in." Above them, the stars shined brighter than ever. Jari touched the new device on her wrist. Smaller, not a weapon anymore, but a tool for rebuilding. She had nothing when she came here, only her clothes, her fear, and her pain. But now she had a purpose, a home, and people who stood beside her. She wasn't just a survivor anymore. She was a symbol, a spark, a beginning, and she wasn't alone.